Hi everybody, and welcome to my studio today. I'm so happy that you're here to join me. My name is Lonna and I am a decorative artist, and if you've come to my YouTube channel, you've come here to learn how to paint with acrylic paints. If you are new to my channel, please be sure and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you know every single time I post a video. If you're a returning subscriber, I just want to say thank you and welcome back, and I really appreciate every single one of you that have come to watch me. So what are we going to paint today? Well, let's just see what we're going to paint. We are going to paint this beautiful strawberry basket of strawberries and jar of jam. Isn't this the most cute design ever? I created this specifically for a group of ladies that I'm going to be teaching later this year, but I had to create a video for this. It's a little bit different than my other strawberry video that I have. I really love painting fruits, and my other one is Lamb Family Farms, and it's a pretty long, detailed video. This one I hope is a little bit easier for those of you who want to give it a try. There's no detail parts on the jar, but you can certainly go watch the other video and add that on if you would like to. A more simple little basket here, although I felt like the other basket was easy too. This one is pretty quick and easy, and I think it's just going to be an enjoyable project for everyone to do. So let's turn around to my paint table and let's get started, everybody. Okay, I've got the surface base coated with lamp black. I've applied 2 coats. The second coat is still wet. So I'm going to grab a brush. While it's wet, I'm going to dampen my brush here. And while it's wet, which I might have to add a little bit more black in here, I want to add some white, just kind of stippling a highlight behind where we're going to be putting our design. I'm going to spritz this lightly, or maybe not quite so lightly. A little bit more white. I'll wipe off my brush and get a little bit of the black, which I still have a little bit of white in my brush, so it's just making a little bit of a darker gray value. And just bring it out a little bit. Tiny bit more white. I think I'm going to load both black and white on my brush and try and get that little bit darker gray value to come out a little bit more. I'm just going to lightly, I don't mind the brush strokes in there, but very lightly brush over that, kind of blend it out. You don't have to do this at all. You can leave yours black, completely black. I really think I need that to come out higher. I want it to be just a scooch higher. So more white. Wipe off black. This is just going to give you a mottled background back here. I'm going to wipe off the brush and then just very gently kind of blend this out. I picked up paint, so now I'm going to wipe my brush off again and just continue on. I'm going to grab a little bit more black because out here I definitely want it to be more black. Wipe my brush off and very gently blend. We're going to have a table line here, so that will give us a little bit of a, we'll have a little bit of a different look down here on the table. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and kind of mark my table line. Let's see how far I want it to come up. I think right about where it's at is good. So I'm just going to kind of mark it with some paint here. And then I'll measure that up and give you the measurement of that. I just picked up a little bit of water. I still had a little bit of white paint in my brush. So now I'm just kind of scumbling that in. I'm going to dip into my water and squeeze out the excess water and paint out of my brush. Ooh. Don't want water running down on there like that was doing. And then I'll just kind of blend this out a little bit. You can grab a little bit of black if you need to blend out a little bit, but I'm not too worried too much about this down here. I just wanted a little bit of light down in here, so when we create some shadows later, they will pop up. If we need to come back in and lighten it more, we can. It's a little bit more difficult to do after everything's painted in, but it can be done. I can show you how to do that. So we're going to let this dry, and then we are going to get our pattern lines traced on here. We're not going to transfer on detail lines. So like all of this stuff on the jar, we're not going to do. We're not going to put the little seeds in. You can actually leave the stems off of the strawberries for now, and all this little line work in here, we don't have to add that on. So we're wanting just basic lines of things, shapes of things. So the shape of the jar and where the lid comes down to, the shape of the strawberries and the shape of the basket. So that's what we are working on. Let me see what I'm working on a 9x12 surface here. And it looks like I went up about 3.5 inches from the bottom to create my table line. So, okay, we're going to get this dry. I'm going to get my lines transferred on here and we'll get started. Okay, my background is dry, so now you can see that little bit of just light gray stuff going on in the background. Hopefully we'll be able to see some of that surrounding our painting when we're done. So I've come up about 3.5 inches. Now you can make it exactly 3 if you would like. I probably wouldn't go much shorter than 3 because your strawberries wouldn't fit on here. Yeah, I don't know that I'd go much shorter than 3.5, to be honest with you. 3.25 might get it. Okay, so my piece of paper, my tracing paper. So for those of you who have never painted with me before, I take my line drawing and I put a piece of tracing paper over the top of it and I trace it on here. Okay? Now, you can just trace the shape of things. You don't have to put all the details in unless you absolutely need them. With the strawberries and stuff, you really don't need them on there. On your trace line drawing, you probably would this stuff. But all these little lines down here you don't necessarily need. But I did that for your benefit. So because my tracing paper is the exact size of my surface, I'm going to cut some off of the top of this so that I can tape it down. I don't need it to be this long anymore. I only had it this long as I was drawing my design so that I could get it to fit on this particular surface. But you have my permission to enlarge or reduce the pattern to any size that you want to fit any surface that you need. Okay? So I can see my line through my tracing paper here, so I know where to put it so that it's going to be straight on here. Now, the option at this point is, do you want it off-centered? Any? Do you want it directly in the center? How would you like it to be? I mean, this is where you get to be a little bit creative with your piece. So center is fine because the basket comes over to the side a little bit, so the whole thing is not directly center. A little bit of it is to the left, or you can scoot it over. Personally, for me, I'm going to scoot it over and make the basket the focal point. So I'm going to bring it down, make sure I'm on my lines here, and have it just off center to the right. Again, this is a personal preference, so you just do it however it looks mostly appealing to you. I'm going to tape it down with a couple of pieces of tape. That's so it won't twist and slip and turn as I am putting the tracing on. So now we want to take some white graphite paper, and I just buy mine on Amazon. Hobby Lobby sells some. Michael's sells it. I really like, my particular favorite is Low Cornell tracing paper. Let's see if I have some. Or transfer paper, not tracing paper. And you may be able to get this on Dick Blick. I particularly like theirs the best. The sheets are, this one's 18 by 36, this one's 9 by 13, 9 by 13. I think Hofcraft, H-O-F-C-R-A-F-T, also sells this, but I'm not 100% sure. But I really like the larger size, so I can cut it down to any size that I like. But my favorite, this is my favorite transfer paper. I just prefer it. It doesn't leave a lot of smudges behind. Now, if you don't have transfer paper, you can trace on the back of this with a charcoal pencil or some kind of, let's see if I have one in here, some kind of pencil. This is a 4B, something like that. You can trace on the back and lay it on here. You'd probably want a white one, a white charcoal pencil. You can also get these at Dick Blick. I believe you can get them at Amazon. I know you can get them on Amazon, but I think you can get them at Hobby Lobby, Michael's, and probably at Walmart. So, but you can trace on the back of your design, and then just take a stylus or a pen or a pencil and trace on this side of it, okay? So, I think I just made a line where I didn't want a line. We'll work it out. So I'm going to lay this underneath here. So you can see it doesn't cover my whole pattern, so I'll have to slide it down later. But I just want to put the shapes of things. I don't need details at this point. And just go over all of your basic shape lines. I do want this line, and then I'm just going to start over here in the corner and add my strawberry shapes. I'm not going to transfer on the little stems at this time because it's just not a necessary step. Okay, I'm going to move this down so I can get everything else. Now I've painted a couple of different strawberry designs. This one I'm making specifically for a chapter seminar. Something that I'm hoping we can accomplish in the time frame allotted. So I've got my basic lines on there. That's all we need. We don't need anything more than that at this point. Okay? So now I'm going to take my graphite paper and set it aside. I'm going to take my line drawing and put it somewhere out of the way. I'll probably leave the tape on it, so if I need to come back and add detail lines, which I will on this, I can have it handy and be able to quickly lay it on here and add some more lines. And I just used a stylus. They come in a set of 3. At least these kind do, and I can't find the third one. I got mine at Hobby Lobby. Set of 3. I think they were like $5.99 maybe. I'm not sure, but 40% off coupon. Excellent, excellent price. Okay, well, I can't erase that because that's paint. I was thinking I drew that on with my pencil, but it's paint. So, got some white paint there. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. I kind of like where my lightness is going to be right through the handle and around the handle, a little bit over here. So we'll probably be having our light source come at everything this direction and hitting on the back of the wall over here. So it's going to come across this direction. So as you're painting your light source in, you want to always be aware of what direction it's coming and where it's going to hit something the most. Okay? Alright, so let's start painting in some base coats on this. So I'm going to do different colors than I have in the past on a lot of my strawberry stuff. So this one will have some different colors going on. The basket I'm going to paint in with driftwood. The strawberries, I'm going to undercoat them with, I normally do a yellow, but I think this time I'm going to use spiced pumpkin. Okay, our jar here, we're going to definitely undercoat this with some yellow. We're going to use some Sunny Day yellow. And you can add just a tint of this orange in with this yellow if you want. And then our lid here is going to be base coated in, we're going to mix white and black together to get a medium gray value. So we're going to start that up real quick. And I'm just going to go ahead and put all these colors out on my foam plate here. So that's from a basket. Shake your paints up. They can get separated in there. That's for my strawberries. This is going to be for the jar. I don't want any of those little crusty things that came off the lid. And then we're going to have some black and white or gray, and I've got white over here on this one I use for my base color. I'm just going to transfer it over here. So these are the colors we're going to be using. These are for our base coats, our undercoats, that, you know, the stuff that gets you started. Alright, let's grab some paint brushes here. And I am going to use, I'm going to use a 12 flat. This is Black Silver by Dynasty. I love Dynasty brushes. They are probably my favorite brand now. I've been painting with them for a few months now, and I really, really love them. The faux squirrel ones, let me bring one of those out. This is the faux squirrel ones. They're my favorites. I just love how these work. Okay, so our basket, we're going to base coat it in with driftwood. Completely different color than I normally base coat in my baskets with, but I don't want it to be repetitive. The same thing all the time. We need to try new colors to branch out. 2020 is my year of getting out of my comfort zone and trying new things, so why doesn't that include, you know, trying some different colors that I normally use and see how they work out. I mean, it's always, you know, it's always good to branch out and try new things. I did an elephant painting the other day. I never painted an elephant before. Quite pleased with how it turned out. Right before that, I painted a wave painting, and it wasn't, you know, it was one of those tunnel waves where you look through it. Loved, absolutely gorgeous how it turned out. It was done with Deco Art Traditions paints. I love those paints, very pigmented. But when I'm painting stuff like this, I prefer the Deco Art Americana. But whatever paints that you like to use, that's great. But I highly recommend the Deco Art line. Just very great products, and they have such a wide range of products and colors. They're easily available at most craft stores. So, oops, let me turn it this way so I'm not sticking my hand in the paint. I'll get it up on my easel when we get ready to do more detail stuff. So we're just, this is just the first layer. I will go off camera and apply a second coat on this because, you know, it can be tedious and you can get bored with that pretty quick. So we're just doing our first initial coats on here. Okay, so there's our basket. And I've got some colors laid out that I plan on using on this project, but you know, it could completely change down the road. I could add more colors. I could decide I don't like that color. That is the beauty of designing right on camera. You certainly do not ever know what is going to take place. Okay, so I can already see that this orange is going to be too transparent. So I'm going to go ahead and add some yellow in here and make a more opaque color. So I'd say it's just an equal mix there. Maybe a little bit more orange than there is of the yellow. And I've got a ton of paint on this strawberry, so I'm going to have to try and get some of it off. When we come back with our second coat, we can make it more just orange. Okay, there we go. You can go down to a smaller brush if you need to. So, and I'll be doing my highlights probably a little bit different on these than I have done on strawberries in the past. So, not a ton different, because you know, but just a little bit different. So just paint each one in individually so you can retain exactly where that strawberry is. I'm going to get a little drop of water. You can see a little piece of a strawberry here, like the tip of one. Any of you that painted with me for a while know how much I love to paint fruit. It's my absolute favorite thing to paint. So if you don't want to watch this base coating stuff, if you've been at it a while and you get the whole gist of base coating, then you don't have to watch this. Just go ahead and fast forward through it. But I am going to show the entire base coating of the first base coat. I don't want I just want anyone that hasn't ever painted to know that this is how we go about it. I've got a little bit of water in my brush so that my paint isn't super thick. Straight out of the bottle, a lot of times it's just too thick. And I'm just constantly coming back here and loading my brush and maybe mixing a little bit more if I feel like I'm running out of paint. But I still don't have a ton of paint on my brush, and I have added a little bit of water to that mix just by dipping the very corner of my brush slightly into some water and blending it in with that paint. And that gets it nice and smooth consistency for base coating, so you don't have thick globby areas. In your base coating. And turn your piece as you need to get better angle to paint in. Don't feel like you have to keep your painting turned a certain direction. A little piece of a strawberry back in there, and I think I'm going to bring this strawberry down more. Alright. And I've done a jar of strawberries, jam, jelly, whatever, before in my Lamb's Family Farm design. So I may try and do this jam a little bit different. I'm going to try and keep it a little bit, the technique's a little bit on the easier side on this one. I need a little bit of water. My paint's not wanting to move. I'm going to fatten this strawberry up just a little bit. Okay, so for the jar, the inside of the jar, I want it to be mostly yellow, so I'm going to dip into some water. I've got orange in my brush. That's okay. But I'm going to pull out a little bit of that yellow and let the water mix in with it and whatever orange is in my brush. So it's just a super, super soft, peachy color. And we just want to base coat this in. I'm not sure if I'm going to do more than one on this. I'll have to wait till it dries to see how it looks. But we want to get to this point here. Let it dry and then go back and repeat all of our colors. Now when you're repeating your colors for the second coat, and I know that we mixed paint, it may not be exactly the same. Do not stress out about that, because it's not going to matter in the end. This is all undercoating stuff. You know, you want it to be close, but it does not have to be exact, so don't stress out about trying to get it exact, because I can't ever get it exact, so don't make that a big issue. I see a strawberry that I missed back here. I'm going to grab a small brush to paint that in. Let me just grab a round brush here. I've got a strawberry right here at the back edge of the basket. Right back here. Just kind of peeking between that handle and that lid right there. Alright, for the lid, we're just going to make a dark gray value. So we're going to take some white paint and we're going to sneak up on this gray, because we can get too much black really quick. And we just want to make a dark gray. You could make your lid gold color if you like, but this is the color I chose. Try and keep that top line right there pretty straight. That way your lid doesn't look like it's going downhill anywhere. Alright, there's all my first coats on there. So I want it to get completely dry. I'm going to come in and add my second coats on here. After we add our second coats, that's when we're going to come back in and add more detail lines, maybe to our basket, our separation lines. We don't really need to add any detail lines to the jar. We could add a few detail lines to the lid. no detail lines need to be added to the strawberries. So really just your second base coat in there. I see a piece of the basket that I missed here. This edge, this is the inside edge. Okay, there we go. That's better. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Okay, I'm going to get mine dry and get my second coats on. Okay, both of my base coats are dry. I'm going to erase any graphite lines that I didn't paint up to, so they're not distracting or confusing or just plain in the way. I like to erase them. Sweep off your eraser shavings away from whatever direction your paint is. So if your paint is over here, don't brush them that way. If it's over here, don't brush them that way. You don't want these in your paint. It just makes a terrible mess in there. Trust me, I have learned from experience. Okay, I think we got most of the graphite lines off. You want to try and paint up to your graphite lines, but there are occasions when you miss them, so just go ahead and erase them back. Don't worry about it. Okay, so you know in the beginning how we added that kind of light gray color down here, and I can see that it did not stay as light as what I wanted, so I'm just going to side load a mix of some light gray or medium. I think I'll go with a medium gray here because I want to be able to shade underneath this stuff, but I want this to be kind of thin, so I'm going to grab some water, blend it in there a little bit. I'm going to touch my paper towel and get excess off of my brush. I'm going to attempt to put some more of this color, more water, less paint, and put some of this under here, kind of around this stuff, so that I can come in and create some shadows in here at the end. Grab my mop brush wherever it's at. And I'll kind of mush this around with my mop brush and try and blend it out. You can only do this if it's still wet. If it's drying, it's going to be impossible. So I'm not worried about getting it on my stuff because I'll come back with a damp brush and just clean that off. But we do want lighter, definitely lighter underneath all this stuff. And I'm not really worried too much about how it ends out here because I can come back at the end with some black paint and blend all that in there. But we just need a little bit of stuff going on here. So truly, if you want, I didn't think about doing this, you know, hindsight, all that. You could, I'm just dampening that because it's dried before I could scoot it out there. You could paint this all this light streaky gray, and then we can come back with black at the end and adjust what we need to adjust. But this is one way to do it. If you didn't get to that, didn't get it down far enough like I did it, I don't want you to stress out about the fact that it's not coming down as far as what you would like. So I'm just putting a little, it's a very sheer color of paint. It's got a lot of water in it. If you painted with me before, you know how I make washes. I'm going to put just a little bit more, I think, around this stuff. I'm going right over my strawberries. I'm not worrying about that. I just want a little bit more because our light's coming this way. So I'll have a little bit more of reflected stuff going on here. Okay, so you see I painted the gray into my strawberries down here and on my jar. So I'm just going to wash my brush out and take, let's see, I didn't want to get out into that gray area, so I'm going to get a smaller brush and clean the paint off, the gray paint off of my strawberries so it doesn't affect our color. Just a little bit of water in your brush and kind of brush it on there. Wipe your brush off, grab a little bit more water. Just tiny drops of water is all we're doing here. And then I'll do it up here on this. Up here on this it doesn't matter as much because we're going to be putting so many colors on that. It's not going to be a big deal. So I'm just tapping in a little bit of, I kind of lost some of that. Okay, that is super duper good enough because we've got so much other stuff to add to this. Don't be stressing out about this part. So just put some paint on there. It's a wash. Now, you know, a wash is where you're tinting water. So mix a little bit of gray value and then just take a tiny bit of it. Either spritz some water on your palette somewhere and then take that little drop and mix it in with the water. You can see how watery I made mine. And make just a little wash of it and apply it. Let it dry. If it's not dark enough, apply it again, or bright enough, apply it again. I would say after each time that you apply it, go in and wash your strawberries off just to make sure that they are not a gray strawberry, and just use a paintbrush where you can get right on those berries. And it's truly just paint. I don't want you stressing out about, oh my gosh, I didn't make it light enough, or I forgot to add more of this or that. We have layers upon layers coming on this stuff, so not getting it exactly right to begin with is not going to matter. So, and I don't want you to worry about getting anything exactly right, because I don't want you to be the perfect painter. I want you to be the loose painter that can just pick up a color and dab some here and put some there, and not feel like you have to be structured into every single detail. We do need a little bit of structure on where we put certain colors, but you know, you can just really let go and have fun. So I'm going to get this dry and get my colors out. I'm going to put it up on my easel for you, easier to see, and we're going to get started. Okay, I've switched over to my other camera system, so hopefully I can combine the videos, the beginning and what I'm doing now. Alright, so, because I want you to be able to see my palette as I work. I've got my second coats on. Everything is dry. Now you can take your line drawing and lay it back on top of here and transfer any lines that you need to. I'm just going to draw some in and kind of give myself a general idea of where things are. I mean, they may not be exactly how I have them on my line drawing, but they're close enough, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. We're going to work on the basket first, and I can already tell where my banding is here, but if you cannot tell, then you want to be sure and put that line in for the banding on the top edge of the basket. So we're going to start adding some colors in here for our basket, and I want to keep it kind of a brownish, almost dirty color basket. So I'm going to put some soft black out, and I'm going to put my base color out in case I need some of it. And I'm going to put some antique gold. I'm not sure that this color will work out the way that I want it to, but I'm going to give it a shot. And if not, I will just paint over it because it's just paint. And a little bit of white. On my palette. Now my palette that I'm using here, in case any of you are wondering, because I usually use palette paper, is just a plastic non-stick palette that you can purchase. I think Dick Blick has it. I got mine from Sandy McTeer, so you can go to sandymcteerdesigns.com, and I have just covered it with a piece of Glad press and seal. If you don't cover it, the paint just peels off when it's dry, so it's not a big deal. But I just wanted a little bit easier cleanup, so I covered it with Glad press and seal, which is what Sandy suggested, and I can just take the Glad press and seal off and throw it in the trash. Okay, that's my spiel for this particular palette. So we're going to start working on our basket. Now I want you to use whatever brush that you like to use to float. I like to use these shorter bristled brushes or a flat brush. This is a 12, and it's like a chisel or a bright, I don't know. Let's see, what's the other one that I used? This one is also a 12, but you can see the bristles are longer, and these are shorter bristles, and these are longer. And I like the shorter ones for when I'm doing floating work and things like that. So the other thing that is a must-have for when I paint is to spritz my palette with water. It's just a spritzing bottle that I got at Walmart in the travel section. This is my clean water that I spritzed over here, so when I need clean water to thin a light color, or clean water to if I need to add a little bit more water to my brush for my float, you always want to use clean water when you're doing that, because if you go into your dirty water, then you create a cast shadow on your float, and you don't want to do that. So clean water is what you want to pick up. I'm going to grab some of my soft black and just a little bit of that driftwood color. Make this like a brownish gray color. We're going to start with this. We want to start out kind of light, and hopefully I will keep you in camera shot for this. I need a little bit more paint on my brush, so let me mix up a little bit more here. I would say it's 2 driftwood to 1 of the soft black. We'll just kind of play around with it and see what you get. And this is not going to be super noticeable at first. Let me zoom in just a little bit. Oh, that might be too far. So you can't see a ton of the color. I'm going to add just a little bit more of the soft black in there so you can see the color. You don't want a huge color variance here to start with. So I think you can see that a little bit better. I'm going to go next to the jar with this color. I'm going to walk it out a little bit, bring some of that color out into the basket itself. I'm going to come and do along here as well, but I just did that, so I don't want to attempt going through it. I do, however, want to clean up this little bit that I got on the jar. And I'm just loading it on one corner of the brush. I have paint and water both on my brush, so they blend nicely together. A little bit right through there. I'm going to get a little bit more water, and I'm just brush mixing. I don't feel the need to mix tons of paint because we are going to tuck some down inside there. That's kind of the inside edge of the basket there, and go along this outer edge. I want to go on each side of these lines that I drew here, so I'm going to first go on the right sides of them. If your paint is not moving on your brush, see, mine's kind of dragging right there. I need a little bit of water, so I'm going to get a drop of water on the water edge. This edge of the brush, right here. Oops, this edge, right here. I have paint on this side, water on this side. So I'm just going to get a drop of water and work it into my brush just like I work in the paint. And these lines are kind of curved, so don't make them straight. They need to keep their curved shape. Okay, now right up here, let me draw this in with my pencil because that will just be easier, is the edge of this handle here. Okay, and the pencil I'm using is a pencil that I sell on my website. It comes with white, green, and pink lead. Disappears with water or paint. I love it. It's my absolute favorite pencil. So when I want to draw on my project, I know that I can remove it with water. Clean water helps the best, or I can remove it with paint. So okay, I'm going to go on, first I'm going to go next to this jar right here. I flipped it upside down so it would be a little bit easier for me to get right along that edge. I'm going to grab a little bit more water, blend it into my brush with that paint, and we want to go on the opposite sides of all of these. So I'll flip it up and we'll go along the opposite side. This is what you call a back-to-back float. So I'm going to leave that white line in between. I didn't leave it there, but you kind of want to leave that white line between them so you can see it. Okay. I'm going to put a little bit of this color back here on this edge. Alright, I want to go along, I'm going to mix a little bit more here. I want to go underneath this one here. All the way. Okay, and I also want to do this to the bottom. Make sure all of the colors that you put up here are dry before you do this step and this one. So if you go across it while it's wet, you'll just remove it and you'll have to go back and repeat. So a little bit along the bottom there. A little bit of water. And I think I'll go ahead and put a little bit along this edge. We'll do kind of a hit and miss. We don't have to do it along the whole thing. We'll just do just a little bit along there. Okay, that's our first shading on there. We're going to add some lines as well. So I want to grab a detail liner. I like to use a 10-0 liner because I like the bristles. They're longer. So grab yourself a good detail brush. You know, it's up to you if you like longer or shorter bristles. It makes no difference whatsoever. But I personally prefer the longer bristles. It holds a little bit more paint. So I want to thin some of this paint. A little bit more of the soft black, and I'm going to add some water to thin it down to inky consistency so that it flows off of my brush nicely. But I have water on my ferrule, so I'm going to roll that so that I remove the water from my ferrule, this silver part right here. And we're going to come in and just add some cracky lines in this basket. Now this is just the beginning stuff. You can look and see kind of how I drew my lines on there, and kind of go from there if that helps you. A bit more paint here. And right beside each one of these, I'm going to add a little bit more soft black in there. I'm going to put a few. A little bit darker lines on there. Let's see, I got one over here. And now let's go up here and add some lines onto this stuff. So I want some kind of coming around the corner. Coming here. Alright, let's put some up on the handle. I'm going to flip this up here, and we're going to come up from this end and put some, and kind of come around the handle a little bit. And we're going to work our way across it. And then underneath here, we'll have some, and then right here, we're going to have some. And that's getting us started on our basket. It's looking pretty good. Pretty good. So. Okay, I have decided I don't think I'm going to use the antique gold on the basket. It's not really the look I'm going for. So I'm going to deepen some of my shading areas with just some soft black here. Now I want to keep this keep this a little bit sheer, so I'm going to work it into my brush a little bit with that water, and that's going to get it more sheer. And then I'm going to touch my paper towel so I can remove excess stuff, paint and water, and remove a little bit more. And we're going to paint down here. We're going to darken up some of our areas. I'm going to grab a little bit more water. Work that in. We're keeping this a little bit tighter, not bringing it out as far as we brought the other color out. I'm probably going to go along, maybe not, because my highlight is coming across here, so it's going to come right across that handle, so I definitely want this down in here to be darker. I'll put some down in there. Paint on the wrong side of my brush there. I'll just wash it out real quick. Go back into my soft black. Okay, I'm going to come along more water. These lines here. And this one. Darkening up a little bit here. This is soft black, but I've got it worked into my brush with some of the with some water, so it's not really stark. Put a little bit more in here. It needs to be darker right next to that jar. Let's bring it out a little bit. Okay, I want to go along this edge here. want to make sure that I'm doing it on each section. So I just did it on the band there. And now I'm going to do it on the bottom of the basket, but I need more water, a little bit more paint. This is the far left edge of the basket. I want to darken this just a little bit more, just right there. And right here. Okay. Right there. We want it darker right there. A little bit out here. Cannot tell which side my paint is on. I don't have hardly any on my brush, so it's really hard to tell. I still want this to be darker down in here. I'm just tipping up my brush to get it down in that little corner right there. Okay, I want to go on the other side. More water. Really work that in with the water there. Okay, I'm going to put some on this lower edge here. Down along this bottom edge. Now we want to make sure that our other paint areas that we put in, see that one wasn't quite dry there, are dry. I'm going to go underneath here, and I've got my brush tilted up just a little bit to come underneath here so I can make it tight if I need to, or lay it down just a little bit to make it a little bit wider so we can get a little bit of irregularity in our color there. I still think I need some back up in here. Alright, I'm just going to kind of dirty up the piece a little bit just by whatever's left in my brush, just kind of slipping that on there. There's not hardly any paint in my brush, to be honest with you. It's very minimal. So now I'm going to take my detail liner with that soft black, thin some down, grab some water, thin it down. Clean off my ferrule, load it up, and we're going to make some. You have to be up on the tip of your brush when you're doing this. Don't lay your brush down. If you've got it good inky consistency, it's going to flow so nicely from your brush. If it's not flowing, you need a little bit more water. And if it's fading away, you have a little bit too much water. I mean, there's really a fine line in there, and it just seriously just takes practice. Okay, that was a mess. So now I'm just adding some thicker, or not thicker, but some heavier lines in here. I'm not going over the exact lines that I did before. I still want to see those in there. Okay, let's put some up here on this edge piece. Wherever you feel like there needs to be some little wood crack lines. And go up on the handle here. A good looking basket here. I think I want to trim out the handle, maybe the top edge of the basket just a little bit, but I think I'm going to do that when we add our highlights on here, which I think we're going to do here in just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and erase this white line out of here. It's going to stay a little light in there, and that's great. We want that. Kind of lost it here. Might see if I can't add just a tiny bit of it back in by mixing a little white in our driftwood, and see if I can't lighten up inside that one a little bit. Just a curve. So we kind of got that back in there. That's good. Alright, let's add some highlights on here. First thing I want to do is take some white and some driftwood. Mostly driftwood. A little bit of white. I'm going to create a little bit of a banding along this top edge. And I'm just using a small round brush here. And I'm going to do it along the handle as well. So I'll start up here. I'm just going to follow our shape. And it's probably 2 driftwoods to 1 white. So it's gonna, oops, it's gonna fade back in there. Because driftwood, goodness gracious, driftwood is our, apparently I can't talk and paint at the same time, so I'm just gonna line it just a little bit. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. That was just a little bit of driftwood and white. Mostly driftwood, little bit of white. So now we're going to start adding some other highlights onto our basket here. And I think I'm going to actually do some dry brushing on this. So I'm going to get the extra large. I don't want them quite that big. Let's go with a large. This is a large scruffy type brush. Luna. It's also a Dynasty brush. Love these brushes. Love them. Okay, I'm going to take a dry paper towel. I'm going to pick up some white and some driftwood, just a little bit of driftwood. So it's not straight white, it's just a lighter value than what we base coated it in with. And I just want to come in here and scrub some of this in here. This is also going to get this basket a little tiny bit of texture. Scrub along here. Oops, wrong pile. Alright, mix it up. I want to remove quite a bit of that because I don't want a ton of it coming off my brush. Very, very lightly. Extremely lightly begin scrubbing a little bit of this in here. I'm going to concentrate it mostly here and right here on this edge and a little bit right here. And then down here I'm going to concentrate it more in this area. Now I'm using this brush dry. We'll put a little bit over here. We'll have some highlight on there, but we won't come back and brighten that any. And we probably won't come back and brighten it through here either, because we're going to keep our bright stuff here, 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 here. Okay? So this is with a mix of driftwood and white. More white than driftwood, just a tiny bit of driftwood. We don't want to go up really fast because then it's just going to be too stark of a highlight. I'm going to wipe out the paint out of my brush now, and I want to do just white on here. I'm just looking at it to see how it's, if I'm needing to put some of that other color in there in any place. So this is just white. I've still got a little bit of that mixed in here. So I think I'm going to start tapping this a little bit. A little bit in here. You can definitely go to a smaller brush. You do not have to keep a bigger brush like I am. I'll put just a tiny bit in there. Maybe just a little bit here that might be reflecting some. Okay, now I'm going to go white one more time. And even less. I want to put even less of this. Just in a few concentrated areas. Okay? Okay, I think I'm happy with that, so I'm going to go ahead and wash this brush out. Now, if you're going to use this brush again later, which I don't think we are, but if you are, you'll want to clean it out with some hand sanitizer. Get the paint out, and then wipe all the hand sanitizer out on a paper towel. So the hand sanitizer will evaporate quickly so that we can use it again. And then you can clean it very well at the end. So I think for the basket I really need to darken up the bottom of it a little bit darker. I think I'll put a little bit of black out and mix it in with my soft black. Soft black has a brown tint to it, which I really like. But when you want a little bit darker value, soft black I don't know, to me it just takes a little bit to get there. So I'm going to take my soft black and just a little bit of black to tint that. And I want to darken over here on this edge. And I'm going to bring it down along the bottom a little bit. It needs to come up a little bit more. So just kind of bring it up, grab some water, and a little bit more. I definitely want some more underneath this lip. And I am going to bring a little bit of that down into it. My corners, I want my corners to be a little bit like this corner here. I definitely want it to be. We're going to wash in some colors later in here. You know, some reflective light from different areas. Okay, this is soft black and lamp black mixed together. This is going to really dirty up this basket. I'll go ahead and put some on this edge. You can put nails in your basket if you want to. I don't think I'm going to do that, but I might change my mind at the end and add some to it. Along here, put a little bit. Right here. Kind of staying up on the tip, just putting a little bit in there. This definitely needs to be darker. I just want to dirty this corner up a little bit. I just feel like the corners will be more. So I'm just tapping some in there, kind of pulling it out with my fingers and smoothing it out. This little highlight that I put along the top edge, I'm going to just go a little bit along that. A little bit more at the top. I feel like the handle will be dirty. I think I might just leave it here for a little bit and then come back in when I get some more color and stuff in here and see if I need to adjust the basket in any way. I might want to wash over it with another color. So right now I think I'll just leave it right there. Let's start working on our strawberries. And again, I want you to use whatever brush you like to float with. Let me spray some more water on my palette over here. And we're going to start by taking our spiced pumpkin and some Tuscan red and mixing those together. And we're going to get a side load of this color. I want to blend it on my brush really well. I still only have it on that one edge of the brush. I'm going to touch my paper towel, remove a little bit, grab some water. I want to blend a little bit more water into my brush here. And we're just going to start picking our strawberries and painting them. I need just a touch bit more water, I think, or paint. I removed a little bit too much from fresh. Let's go with 2 spiced pumpkin and 1 Tuscan red. And we're going to begin adding some color to our strawberries. Now I want to keep the right side or the center, wherever the light's going to hit it. Like this one might be more center and up. That has a little more light color on it. So I want to keep those areas a little lighter. If you need to go back in and draw in your strawberry, the lines that separate them from each other, you can do that. So mix up a little bit more. Mix it up as you go, that way you're not having a whole bunch of paint out there. This will also help get your strawberries a little bit of variation in their colors. I'm going to take that water edge and gently blend that paint up there. Spiced pumpkin and Tuscan red. It takes a little bit to build the layers on our strawberries. This one here, I need to put a little bit more of the little mixture down in here, because I didn't get it all the way down in there. So I'll come back and work on that one in a moment. And this is a little dark in there. And we do need some shadow back in there. So we're not going to worry too much about that right now. Probably will come in a little bit later and try and add a little bit of dark red down in there. Alright, let me go back to this one here. Put some color on it. Let's do these ones down below. This is still just kind of an orangey red color here. Alright, this last one here. And that's got the beginnings of that. I think I'm going to mix a little bit more orange into this color, the spiced pumpkin, and a little bit of red. I'm going to take some water and thin this down. I'm going to put some of this on our jam area here. There's a little bit of a washy color. It's got water mixed in with it, but it's not a sheer color like we do on most of our washes. Got a little bit more of the paint in it. And I'm just going to very gently kind of smooth it out so it doesn't have a lot of streak stuff going in it. I'm going to switch to a different brush as we layer in more darker colors in here. Let's add some darker colors on our strawberries. Well, actually, before we darken the colors on our strawberries, let's add some seeds in here. So we want to mix some of our Tuscan red and a little bit of black. Tuscan red. We have a deep burgundy color that we're going to be using. You could grab that. I'm hoping to use that as some of my shading color. I haven't decided yet, but since I have my red and my black right here on my palette, so I'm going to add some water to get it inky consistency. I need it to flow off of my brush nicely. We're going to go ahead and add some seeds in here. Ooh, that's a big seed. I don't want it to be that big. Now these are just little dots, and try to offset them a little bit. Now this is where you might want to look at your pattern to be aware of which way your strawberries are going. So like this strawberry is either coming from this edge or this edge. It is your choice, but I have it coming this direction, and I'm just going to add some dots on there. This strawberry, the stem of it is here going this direction, so we need to bring our dots that way. This one we can see very well, so we know which way it's going. Okay, this one's going to have a stem out this way. This one, the top. Oh, that's a long one. I don't want it to be that long. That's pretty long. These are just little dabby dots. I don't want them to be round dots, so seeds are not round looking. Okay, this one goes this direction, so I'm going to flip it, and we'll start back here at the base. Maybe clean the tip of my brush off. It's got something on it. Not sure I got it off, but let's give it a shot. Okay, and then this one actually comes from this direction. Let me see, I'm looking at the wrong strawberry. This one. I'm going to bring my line drawing up here because I'm having a hard time seeing which one this one is. Okay, it comes from this direction. So this would be the end of the strawberry out here. Let's see. This one actually is a strawberry that goes this way. I'll put a stem on it. This one comes from out here. We're just seeing the end of that strawberry. And a little bit of this strawberry, because that one actually lays over it. And then we can see some of the strawberry peeking through. And then we have these laying down here. These will get kind of pushed back into the strawberry a little bit as we build some more layers on here. That one over. That one was a crazy amount of paint. Okay, this one. Don't make them really thick, don't make them really long. They won't quite look right. Now we're going to add some in here. And again, these will get covered up a little bit. And they can go all different directions in here. So just put some in some random places. And we may come in and add another layer in the jar after we build more colors on here. But for now, that's our first little layer of seeds in there, and that was just that mix of lamp black and a little bit of Tuscan red in there, or actually more Tuscan red than lamp black. Before we start adding some more colors onto our strawberries, I want to start establishing a highlight area. And I'm trying to determine exactly how I want to do this. I think I'm going to take a round brush, and I'm going to take a damp brush. I'm going to lay a little bit of water in where I want my bright highlight to be. I'm going to take my Sunny Day Yellow and just tap some of that in there. And of course it won't be staying this bright yellow because we'll be adding some colors in here, but this is going to get us a beginning establishment of our highlight. I think I'm going to try and take it off of my seeds here. So in doing this, I want to work around my seeds. Oh, because there's no seed there. I'm not really sure where the seeds are in this one. Let me just wash that off. Okay, let's try this one again. So I'm going to dampen it. I can see where my seeds are. So I'm going to tap this color in between and around some of those seeds. Okay. It won't be, once it kind of fades down in there from the water drying up, it won't be super crazy bright. We'll tap this in here. This is just sunny day sunny day yellow. This is a good way to start establishing a highlight. And let's go back here on this one. We'll have a little bit. Actually, I'm going to bring it down a little bit down here. And this one here. A little bit of water, go around some of those seeds. This one I think I want to highlight more over this way and some up in here. Okay, you can already see how it's kind of fading down in there. I'm not going to worry about the jar right now. I'm going to go in and, well, actually, let's tap just a little bit. Could use a bigger brush here. A little bit of a highlight in here. I'm still trying to stay off of those seeds because I don't want those seeds to get covered up. So it's just a little, I dampened it. I had a little bit of paint on my brush and I just kind of scumbled it into the area that was wet. Okay, we're going to start adding some of our Tuscan Red on here. So I've switched to a different brush here. I have switched to a, this is a soft curve. Silver Silk brand. I got this from the Brush Guys, brushguys.com. This one's a size 10. So I'm going to be using this one. I might switch back and forth between the two because I really like that short flat. But we're going to start adding some of this red onto our strawberries now and get them a brighter color. And we're going to go right up to that highlight. And then I'm just going to take my finger and kind of tap it into that area. Now you can use a mop brush and kind of mop it and help blend it over. My fingers are right here, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it with my fingers. So we're going to go around any strawberries that we need to. This is just getting our first layer of red on there. We're still just doing a float of color here. That over into that highlight area. It's okay if it's got a little bit of a mottled look. Don't try and make everything look smooth and perfect. We don't want that look, especially on strawberries. They have a little bit of more of, you know, textury like stuff going on with them. This is just adding more color onto our strawberries. We're not shading and doing things like that yet. we still want to retain the shape of these strawberries, so make sure you can tell about your shapes. Right. I had a little bit of a hard line on there, so I had to grab some water with another brush and take that down a little bit. Tap, tap, tap. Delicious red strawberries. Okay, now this one I kind of painted in not right, so we want to make sure that we get the fact that this strawberry is on top. Oh, I wash out my brush there. I had paint going crazy everywhere. Because this one, the stem is going to be right back here on this one. And it's also on top of this one, so that one definitely needs to be red back there. And I got a little bit of red on my handle, so you want to keep your damp brush handy so you can remove your reds quickly. They're notorious about being difficult to remove. And there's so many reds that you can use to paint in your strawberries with. I've used many different colors of reds and oranges and things on strawberries, so you really can't go wrong with whatever red you choose. Okay, I'm going to go to a little bit bigger brush here to do some of this color on the jar. So I don't have to work so hard. So we're going to take our Tuscan red, and I did side load for a float just so that I could have that water in my brush. But it's kind of all mixing together now, but it's going to help keep that a little bit more of a transparent color so it doesn't. I'm going to grab some water and let it just kind of fade away over here as we get to the edge. Across this way a little bit. I'm going to clean my lid off there. Now if the brush is not taking it off, I have this eraser tool. This is available on my website, but if you have a white eraser, you just want to remove that paint, and you can only do it while it's before it's cured, and it just takes a little tiny bit of water. If it's still wet, you can just erase it away, but if it's not, then you have to add just a little bit of water on top of that paint and let it and then just work it out. Okay, so there's our first layer of Tuscan Red on there. Okay, before we add another, before we start darkening on our strawberries, I want to add another layer of seeds on the jar. We don't need them on the strawberry, but we're going to do it on the jar. So I've got, I don't think my soft black was shook up very well. It's very thin. It shouldn't be way out there like that. It should be a more formed drop, not a drop that's spread out. So I'm going to take my, this is deep burgundy and soft black. Grab some water, thin it down, and I want to add another layer, maybe a little bit more soft black, another layer of seeds on here. I want to keep these kind of thin, don't make them ginormous either. I want them to be just a touch darker. I want them to look like they're a little bit closer to the top as we build some more layers in our jar. Remember, they go every which direction in there. So, and I just put a few more in there. Okay, we'll be highlighting some of those here soon. But for now, that's the way it's going to be. Okay, so I'm going to start with just the deep burgundy. Now you can use cranberry wine. Will be just fine. Matter of fact, I might just grab my cranberry wine because it might be a little bit better color. For this, let me do a side-by-side comparison here. It seems a little bit richer color. So we're going to go with the cranberry wine, I think. I think I'm going to like it a little bit better. But if you don't have it and you have the deep burgundy, just go for it. Now I want to put this just on the dark, the shadow side. We're going to start separating our strawberries. So this strawberry is actually on top, and I do need to shape it a little bit better. So we definitely want to put some of this where one strawberry is behind another, and this is where you can start really shaping and making sure that your strawberries are a nice, lovely little shape. Try that again. And then we'll just kind of bring it up into the strawberry a little bit. So this one's going to be dark here. And it's going to be a little darker underneath this edge. I still don't like the way this one is shaped here. That's a little bit better. Okay, this one we're just going to put some of this on this side, maybe along the top, and kind of down the center of it. We are going to wash over these strawberries later. They're looking yummy, yummy, yummy. only need some water in my brush here. Okay, this one here has two that are on top of it. I want to stay off of this one. And then this one kind of is on top of it, so it's behind three and on top of one. And this one is behind this little piece here. It's really close to this one, so we're just going to put some dark there. And then come along this lower edge. And they're all starting to form beautifully. That just gets a little color there. And then this one gets some right by the handle. Try not to get it on your handle. If you do, quickly get a damp brush and clean that up. This one's going to be mostly dark back here because we're not going to see a whole bunch of this one. And we'll go down and do these down here. A little bit up here. I'm just going to walk that over. And this one here. Okay, I'm going to grab a different brush to do the jam. A bit bigger brush that I've been using here. And I'm going to side load. I've got water in my brush. And we're going to go down this edge. I created that washy color. A little bit more paint in there. And I'm just going to walk it over and let it fade away. It's looking pretty good. I think so. Okay, so I want to take a small round brush, and in these dark areas down here, I know it's black already, but I really want to make it kind of more red to make it the illusion that there's other strawberries down in there. Oops, just laid my arm on my jar. Lifted my paint off of it. I'm just going to leave it because it just gives it a little bit of character there. So we want, I'm going to use this mix that I have of soft black and I actually use the deep burgundy, but I would rather it was cranberry wine. So let's take some cranberry wine and soft black and mix in there. Try and stay off of my jar since it's very wet, and these dark places that we can't really see the strawberries underneath there, but we want to know there's some under there. So it'll be a little bit of a dark red color. And we need a little bit over here. That doesn't need to be quite that stark, and we can't see it a ton. So I don't really think I want to add Tuscan red in here, but let me give it a shot. Not doing a very good job staying off of that edge right there. I may have to come back in and paint that in. going to be adding a stem on this one, so some of that will get covered up. We want to make sure we don't lose the shape of our strawberries. Okay, that's good enough for me. I like that. That was just some soft black and a little bit of our cranberry wine. You can add a touch of Tuscan red in there, but you're going to have to do it a couple times to get that black to look like it's got a little bit of red tint to it, so it actually looks like it's red. Okay. Let's add one more deep little shading on here, and we're going to take our cranberry wine and soft black and mix it together. And we're going to do this on our dark sides. You might want a little bit more soft black than cranberry wine. I'm just going to tap a little bit of this in here because we need to go right next to this one. Create a little bit of a shadow there. Getting a little bit of depth, so don't turn them into black strawberries, so be very careful about how much soft black that you use in your mix. And we just have to use a little bit of this, so you can just put it in your deepest, darkest areas. So like right in here, this is a really dark area. Let's put some in there, and then along behind where that strawberry is behind it. And here, that's going to be a little bit more shadowed. And right here we'll have a little bit. This one's definitely going to have some dark stuff going on. We're going to come back at the end and shade all the way around inside here, so it's all looks like they're setting down inside the basket. This one will get a little bit at the bottom. Okay, so the tip of this strawberry is here, so we want this to be dark. And we're going to go around that a little bit, and then this is a little dark area right there, and we'll go right there. We'll go next to our handle, this one here. Don't think I got it. If I did, I didn't put enough on it because we got a dark area right there. We need to make that dark and bring it around the tip of that one. Oh, they're looking yummy, yummy, yummy. Okay, let's do this one back here. He's going to be a little bit darker. He's in the shadow quite a bit. Okay, let's do the ones down here at the bottom. I'm going to grab a drop of water, a little bit of soft black. So we've got right here next to this one, that's going to be dark, and maybe down here at the bottom, a little bit back here on this back edge. This one's going to get some right back here. It's going to be its dark edge. Cranberry wine, soft black. This one's going to be dark here. And down on this edge. Okay, I'm going to get a different brush. We'll do the jar. So I'm going to side load with soft black and cranberry wine. And go down this edge. edge. I need more water. Water over here. Just spritz some more on my palette. I'm just going to create a little bit of a, like we can see through the bottle a little bit. Although strawberry jam would not be very transparent, so we wouldn't see a whole lot of that. So I'm just not going to worry about it. That might stress some of you out doing that, and I'll just save that for another more intense study of jar painting. Excuse me. Okay, let's highlight our strawberries. So we're going to mix a little bit of Sunny Day and some white. Let me get some fresh white out here. Do need some water. So Sunny Day and white will create this pale yellow color. Okay, and we want to just tap a little bit of a highlight on that one edge. I think I'm going to go back to my round brush and do this because I still want to stay off of the seeds. So Sunny Day, white. I'll do 2 white to 1 yellow. And just tap a little bit in here. I think I will. Dampen again. I'm making a mess here. And the light on these are going to bounce around those seeds anyway. We need to highlight our seeds as well, so we'll take some of this when we're done with our detail liner and we'll highlight our seeds. Some of them, we won't highlight them all, but we'll highlight some of them. I think I'm going to zoom you in so you can maybe see what I'm doing here a little bit better, where I'm just kind of tapping and wiggling, going around some of those seeds. Just gives it a little bit more of a realistic look that way. And this one will get just a little bit. Not in the shadow area. Okay, a little bit on this one. And a little bit on the edge of this one. Can't tell if I got this one or not. If I did, it really faded back down in there. And I think on this one, I'm going to put a little bit over here just because the way our light is going to be coming in, it's going to be coming in right along that edge. We're going to brighten this up with a little bit of white. I'm going to stay with this small round brush, but I want you to go to a bigger brush if you need to. And I'm just going to tap a little bit of a highlight. You go to a detail liner if you are worried you'll make your little seed highlights too bright. And I don't want to get into the shadow areas. I want to try and stay more in the area, the lighter areas, to get the reflection from the seeds on here. And if you're using a round brush, just stay up on the tip as much as you can. And it's just a little reflective light on these seeds. If you paint one and it's a little bright, then just touch it back with your finger and soften it down in there. And I hope I'm keeping you on camera since I zoomed in. Please don't hate me if I did, because I probably had you off camera for this whole thing. I've got two monitors where I can look at what I'm doing, but neither one of them show them exactly the same of where my shot is at. So I don't understand why that is, because it's coming from the same camera. But I'll just put a couple back here. It's a little illusion back in there. I'll come down here to these. I haven't highlighted these yet, but we'll just go ahead and add a drop of water here. That was quite a bit there. There, we want to do some of this in the jar too. You can stay a little bit more on the lighter side if you want to. But some of these over here will get a little bit of a highlight, so you can carry that. I'll have to wide angle out now because I know I'm probably getting you off camera. Okay, so I didn't go all the way across the jar because we don't need to do that. So back to my highlights. I didn't do these down here, so let me scumble in some around the seeds. This is a very easy way to highlight strawberries. It's a more realistic highlight. Unless your strawberries are covered with some kind of oil that makes them really reflect the light. This is the way highlights appear on strawberries mostly. Okay, I want to wash my brush out because we're going to go straight white now. We'll do a little bit less with the straight white, and then we'll get our stems on there. It's coming along really nice. Okay, we're going to do one final little highlight on the strawberries. We're going to take some white. I'm going to keep my round brush, and I've got a little bit of water in my brush, so it's going to keep that white a little bit lighter. And we're just going to, oh, that's too light, too much water. So let me try this again. And we're just going to keep this, it's still too light. Let me get some of that water out of my brush. I might have to go somewhere else on my palette to do this because I think that's where I spritz my water. Alright, let's try this again. We're going to add a bright little highlight in here. And we don't need to do every place we did before because this is just our brightest little highlight. So I definitely want to come along the edges just very lightly of the ones that are maybe on top of another one. and give them some shine. Maybe not quite that much there. Don't really like that one. Take that down. I think I got it shaped well there. That might be just a little bit too bright, so I might have to take that down with a little bit of. You can also do this with a detail liner if that is easiest for you. So I'm just tapping and doing a little bit of a highlight shine on the edges of the ones that are on mostly on top. You know, where you're definitely going to see a little bit of that light hitting it and creating a super bright. And I need more water. It's going to fade way down in there because I got a lot of water in my brush and I can tell. Tap a little bit on the strawberry, trying to go around the seeds. None back there on that one because it's not really, it doesn't need light. And you can always come back and brighten this highlight after we get our stems and everything in if we feel like some of our highlight is too washed down in there. We can definitely try to intensify that. So okay, for the highlight on the jar, actually I'm not going to highlight the jar until after we get our leaves on there, our design that we're going to put on our jar. So right now all we want to do is add our stems, transfer our lines for our stems so we can paint those in and do a wash on the strawberries. And I think the strawberries will be done. I'm probably going to come in and touch up on this edge of this basket a little bit where I got some red in there on the edge where I don't want it. And we've got to float down inside and push all the strawberries down into the basket a little bit. You know, some of them, not all of them. So let's get our stem lines transferred on right now. Alrighty, we are going to work on the stems now on these. I've already got mine painted in with 2 coats of leaf green. So now I'm going in here, I'm going to zoom you in just a little bit. And I'm trying to determine which leaf is on top. So let's say I want this one to be more on top, that one pushed back. So I'm going to put my lines there so I kind of know where I want to do my shading. On this one, we obviously have a little leaf that comes down like that. I want this one to be in the front, and then those can kind of be pushed to the back. And this one here, I'll put this one in the front. And of course, that one will probably be in the front. It didn't really require a lot of... Okay, that's that stem. This one here, we also have one in the front here. Okay, and then this one. Hopefully this will all make more sense as I begin painting in with the stuff. Now for this floating, I'm going to use this very small chisel. It is a size 6, so you can use a small flat brush. A 6, I wouldn't go any bigger than an 8. Let me grab some paint out here, and I'm going to put some Hauser dark green and some olive green out. You just need a tiny bit. That's way more paint than we're going to need. And I think I'll put a little bit of Sunny Day out. Okay, so let's start working on these. I'm going to, first of all, I dampened my brush, but I removed all the excess water out of it, so it's just damp. We're going to be using like straight paint here, but we do need a little bit of water in our brush or the paint's not going to come off. Excuse me. So on this one here, we'll start here. I want to put a little bit of this dark color down at the bottom. This is why we need such a small brush to do this. This one down here, and a little bit down here. So we're kind of pushing some petals to the back and keeping some to the front. I'm up on the tip of the brush here, so that I'm just putting a little bit of paint in here. Okay, just a tiny bit of paint is on my brush, not very much at all, because if we get too much, then it's going to fill in the whole little stem leaf here, and they're not very big to begin with, so we don't want to fill them in. Okay, so you can see how we're creating a little bit of depth on those leaves on the stems. Can't even talk. Goodness. I need a little tiny drop of water. I could feel that my paint was getting really dry. Okay, so this one here, this one's in the back, so I want to put a dark color on it, and then at the base of this one, and at the base of this one. We're going to add a little bit of green onto the strawberries, not a ton, but a little bit. Alright, we'll go to this one back here, and I'm going to put some on this one. That leaves more in the back, and these two, and at the bottom of this one. And then at the bottom of this one, and that little piece right there that we can see, it's kind of pushed. That one's way behind everything, so we don't have to be super crazy exact about it. Okay, this little piece is behind. Alright, let's go down here to these 3 at the bottom. It's a small amount of paint. It's just a couple of little strokes on here, and then you're done with the shading. So I don't want you to be stressing out about this at all. The highlights will be the same way. Okay, so on this one right here, we've got a little piece, and it really depends on how you drew yours on and painted them, so you get to be the judge of what stem is in the front and what stem is behind. Okay, so that took care of our shading on our stems. We're going to highlight them now. We're going to highlight with some olive green. Now I've erased all of my graphite lines off of there, so that should help you a little bit in being able to see them. I'm going to flip this a little bit so that I can pull it more towards me. So I want to do the tips. And again, I have a small amount of paint here. And I know this looks super bright when you first put it on, but trust me, it's going to fade back in there. I love this olive green color. It's a very, very pretty color on leaves. And it's just a very teeny tiny little bit. The reason I'm not using a round brush to do this is because I can't quite get a smooth look with a round brush. It just doesn't work out as well. Just a little bit. Alright, we'll go down here to these. And turn this way because I need to get this edge right here. I'm really up on the tip of this brush. Just a wee bit of paint. Okay, so there we've created our highlight on there. We can come back and add a little bit brighter highlight with a little sunny day on just a couple of places. I don't want to put this everywhere, but I'll put a little bit. I'm not sure exactly how well this is going to show up, but we'll just tap a little bit in a couple of places. And that will take care of that brightest highlight. So now we want to put some green onto our strawberries, just a little bit. I'm going to get some of our leaf green, which is our base color that we painted them in with. I'm going to stay with this small brush here, and I'm going to take some green. Let me get some Tuscan red out. And I'm going to mix a tiny bit of red in with it. Brush off. I got a little bit too much paint on there. Actually, I'm going to wash it out. It's such a small brush. I've got it going over way too far on there. A little tiny bit more green in there. You just want a tiny bit of red in that green. And then we can come in here and put some of this underneath our stems. Oops, you'd probably like to be on camera, wouldn't you? So just the ones that have the stems, we're just going to put a little bit of this on there. It's just gonna set the stems, like attach them to the strawberry so they're not, you know, just kind of hanging above them. We just need that there. Okay. Teeny tiny small amount of paint here. To mix a little bit more. And don't leave any hard lines with it, kind of smooth it out. You want them to look attached. Okay, I think that gives a pretty good look of them being attached on there. Alright, we're going to wide angle out here. We're going to finish up our strawberries and our basket edge, and we'll be done with the basket of strawberries. And then we're going to go work on the jar. So on the basket, we want to float on our strawberries down here around this edge right here to kind of push the strawberries down in the basket just a little bit. So I've got my cranberry wine and a little bit of soft black. So you can do about equal mix here, or just a little bit more cranberry wine than soft black. Actually, I think I'll do more soft black. So let's go 3 soft black and 2 cranberry wine. So it's a 2 to 3 soft black, 2 cranberry wine. So we're just going to go along the bottom of our strawberries right here. Right here, we don't want this to be super wide, so don't get crazy with it. And a little tiny bit more soft black, I think, here. Right here. That's going to be one of the deepest areas right there in that corner. I think that's going to help push them down a little bit. Tap that with my finger. I feel like it's got a little bit of a thick area right there. And I think they look pretty good. I still feel like some of my darker areas need to be a little bit darker. Kind of where one comes over another. So I can take that mix and thin it down with some water, because we don't want this being very dark. And we just want to go into some key places here and create our darkest little shadow areas. And that's mostly going to be our little V areas. Do a little bit of shadow behind this. Maybe I can get a little bit more paint on my brush here. Try and get the moisture out. A little bit behind that stem right there. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I don't want to do any more than that because I don't want to make my areas too dark in here. I need to get that off my highlight right there. Alright, I might put just a touch of this darker down here. little bit right here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm liking that. Let's finish out the edge of our basket where I kind of got color on it that shouldn't be. So our basket is the driftwood, and I'm going to add some white to it. To make a lighter color for this edge. And this is the color that we mixed and put on here when we first did this, so I'm just going to repeat it. Create that little bright edge on there. And I think I'll go ahead and put some of this on the handle edge. Second coat, especially right here and back here. And a little bit right here. So that's going to give us some bright areas in there. I'm going to go ahead and put some along this edge. I'm not sure what happened to the shape there, but I don't like it. So, there we go. That's much better. I know it looks a little bright right now, but it should fade down in there a little bit. And if not, we can come back with our, see, this is already faded down in here. We can come back with our base color and go over that. So like right here, I don't want it to be that bright, so I'm going to take my base color and pull that. Maybe add a little bit of soft black to it. And pull that. It's not quite so bright, and this doesn't need to be quite as bright. I think back here it doesn't need to be quite as bright either. So this is our base color of driftwood and a little bit of soft black. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to leave it there until we are done here. Actually, I'm going to put a little bit more of the soft black over here, because that's going to have some shadow from the jar. And I think I'm going to slightly darken that with some soft black. This shading right here, just right next to the jar. Okay, I think we're looking pretty good here. That was a little bit of soft, tiny little bit of soft black that I put right there. Okay, that is going to be it for our strawberries in our basket until we get the jar done. Then we can evaluate everything and see if it needs more done to it. But we're going to get ready to move on to our jar now. For our jar, we're going to float down this edge, and I'm going to use my larger brush. Actually, I'm going to use a different brush than that one. I accidentally removed the words on this one, so I tried to write it back in. It's a 1/2 inch faux squirrel dynasty brush. So I'm going to dampen that brush. And I'm going to mix my cranberry wine and some soft black. And we're going to go down this edge of the jar. And create that really dark value over here. I'm going to wipe my brush off and get a little bit of the Tuscan red. And we'll bring some of that in here. And then wipe my brush off, grab a little bit of water, and just let this kind of work its way over here. Just a little bit. We just want a little bit of that red to come over. Okay, while that dries, we're going to go up and work on our lid here. So you can put your pattern line back on here if you need to. We know we have the top of the lid right here. And then it has this lip that has all these little lines on it. You don't have to draw those little lines. I'm just putting it there for your benefit. And actually that can be a little bit wider. And then we have all these other lines that go around it. Okay, so it looks pretty much like that. It's a pretty simple little jar. So I think what we'll do is we'll start with, I'm going to put some black out so we can make a really dark gray value. Okay, so we're going to mix our white and our black. We want a value that's darker than what we have here. I'm going to grab a little bit of water to thin that down. I want it pretty close to inky consistency. Make sure you don't have any water on your ferrule. Okay, we're going to come in here and start working the details on this lid. So I'm going to start, you can do a detail liner here, and it needs to be darker because I can't see it. If I start to paint it and I can't see it, it's not the right value. So it's going to be based on what you painted yours, how you mixed your paint. So you'll just have to go from there. I'm very much up on the very tip. That's why if you can't do this with a round, you want to get a detail liner. I am quite used to painting on the tip of a round brush, so it's not an issue for me, but I want you to swap out for a detail liner if you can't get some nice lines with a round brush. We're going to go down along here. I need to bring my lines down longer. So let me bring some of these down. Okay, a little bit bigger of a lip. I'm going to grab some more water and mix a little bit more here. And we're going to do these lines. I don't worry if they're straight or anything, so I don't want you to worry if they're straight or anything, okay? And wash that brush out. We're going to use it again here in a minute, but before we do that, I want to float. And we're going to float with that same mix that we made right here, this dark gray value. Okay, you want to go on the outside edge out here. You want to make sure the paint that you just painted on there is dry. So we're going to go along the outside edge. We'll be repeating this and making it darker. Remember, we build in layers. We're not going to put too much out here on this edge because our highlight is coming this way. We will have some out here, but this will be the darker side that will be brought out just a little bit. I want a little bit up here. And on this top, I'm going to bring it just a little bit. I'm up on the very tip, like a couple of hairs of this brush, and just kind of scooting it along that line just to create a little bit of a more flat surface up there. We're also going to take this along the back. We'll put a little bit over here like we did down there, just a little bit. Okay, so we're starting to create a little bit of depth on there. I'm going to go to the small flat chisel. Now this step, I'm going to tell you this step is probably going to be optional, because if you are not feeling good about using a small brush for floating, you don't have to do this. I just want you to know this is an optional step. You can leave it just like this. Let me erase the lines off of here so you can kind of see where I'm going. So now you can kind of see the jar lid before we add any highlights. But I want to shade. Grab a little bit of water. And so I'm going to be up on the edge of the brush just a little bit because I want to keep this kind of tight under here. And we're just going to go along each line just a little bit underneath. I mean, it's going to seem like it's going to fill that whole line in, so I don't want you to do that, but just put a little bit there. We're going to go along the bottom edge of this upper rim, and then I want a little bit more up here coming out, because that's the shadow side of the jar lid. Okay, we can start adding some highlights in here. So back to your round or your detail. I'll do my detail liner this time. And we're going to take our white and a tiny bit of black and make a very light gray color. A little bit of water. And make sure there's no water on the ferrule right here. And then we're going to add some highlights, maybe. Well, I keep saying we're going to add highlights, but I'm not 100% sure that's going to happen. A little bit more white in my brush. There we go. And I'm just going to kind of put these by these darker ones that we made. Okay, we're just starting a little highlight edge there. And I really want to do these down here with my round brush. I just feel like I can have a little bit more control on it, but you can stay with your liner brush. I want to go in above these lines that I did here and just kind of drag it through there. I'm not laying my brush down and actually brushing with it. I'm just letting it kind of barely touch and skim across. I'll bring a little bit more of it over this way since this is the highlight side. Put some up here on the lid. Again, I'm just kind of dry brushing it on there. I'll put some going across. Again, this is that gray and white mix. A little bit more. It's mostly white, a little bit of gray. It's such a small brush, the paint comes off of it very quickly, so you've got to go back and load a little bit more on there. Okay. We're going to add some deeper shading on here. We're going to take our lamp black and we're going to work it into our brush with a little bit of water so that it becomes not quite such a stark color. And we're going to go along this edge here. We're going to stay on the lower part of the jar lid first. Then we're going to go up here to the top and put some up there. So you can definitely tell what is the top and what is not. We're also going to, I'm going to keep this same brush, but you can go to a smaller one. I'm going to tilt it up, okay, and put a little bit underneath the lip area. Just in a few places. Give it that deep groove look. Okay, I'm not going to do this side. I want to keep this side the darkest. Okay. I do want to put a little bit more on this and bring it over just a little bit. Kind of want to define that top edge just a little bit more. I'm going to go along the backs, on the top of the jar, right next to that lip right there, and put a little bit. Let me grab a little bit more here. Barely skimming this across with my brush. I just want that edge defined a little bit more. And then we're going to add some highlight, a brighter highlight on here. I'm going to go down to a smaller brush. I'm going to go down to this 6 chisel. You can use a 6 flat, an 8 flat, something smaller like that. And white is what I want to use here. This is our brightest highlight of white. And I want some of this along this edge right here. I want to define that edge just a little bit more than what it's defined. Let it fade away as it gets over there. I'm going to go ahead and drag a little bit of this on here. And a little bit through here. I think I want this along here to be just a little bit brighter. Then I'll take my detail liner and grab a little bit of white and just highlight. Ooh. I'm not going to go any farther than that. I just feel like it would be not good. Okay, so I think that will probably finish out our jar. And any place that you feel like, you know, you've lost your initial gray value, you can mix some of that medium gray. And scoot some of it back in here. Actually, I need a little bit darker right through here. That down just a little bit. That looks better. Okay, and I think that will finish out our jar. So, or our lid. So now we're going to finish up on our jar and do some shading down below our design here. And you know, my initial thing was to do one of those jars that has the leaves coming across it. I'm kind of liking the jar just plain. It looks more earthy, like this basket. So I think we're just going to go ahead and highlight on this jar. I'm going to keep it more simple. If you want a more detailed jar, I have another video, Lamb Family Farms, that also does strawberries in a different kind of jar, a ball jar, and I show you how to do the ball wording on it. But I think this one, I'm going to like it much better if I just keep it more simple to go with a more simple basket. So we need to highlight on this right edge of our jar. We're going to do this with some, we're going to start with some light colors here. And I'm going to go with my yellow. I'm going to add a little bit of red to it and make it an orangey color. Although that yellow is such a different color, it's just going to turn my red pink. So we'll just go with the yellow. You just need to create a little bit of a bright highlight on here for reflection. So I'm just going to drag some of this up this edge. I'm going to create the curve of the jar because that's going to help with the illusion that this is glass. I'm going to bring it over just a little bit. And then I'm going to highlight that with some white, and I still want to darken this side over here. So we'll go with yellow first. And then we'll add a little bit of white on here. Maybe not quite that big. Just a little bit on this edge out here. So our jar looks more rounded now, has more form, but this edge needs to be darker. So I'm going to take my big brush here and I'm going to go into that soft black and cranberry wine and really darken that, and go back in here with this color. And I want this to come over farther. brush out. I think I'm going to grab my matte brush so I can blend this if it hasn't dried. It's a little dry, so let me dampen. Okay, that darkness is just too controlled right there, so I'm definitely going to have to bring that over. So I'm going to have to repeat that once it dries. But for now, we're going to leave it and move down to our shading down here. I'm going to go ahead and dry this and get this jar finished out. So I'm just using a small little portable fan here. I want to make sure it's dry. I think I'm going to use my bigger brush that I have here, which was my base coating brush that we did all the washing and stuff in down there. I can get a lot more paint on this brush. And I want a lot more cranberry wine. I might put a little bit of that Tuscan red in there. A little bit more soft black in there. There we go. Take my mop brush and very quickly mop that where it stops. And very gently go over into this and softly tap and smooth out and blend very softly. When you're using a mop brush, except for right there where I started out, you use it very, very softly. You use it dry, and if you go into your paint, you especially want to use it softly in there, because it will take your paint off. It will lift it right off of there, and then you will just have like this big hole in your project where you just made a hole. So the last thing we want to do is shade underneath that lip, but I can't do that till that is completely dry. So now we can go down and shade around some of this stuff down here. I'm going to use this brush. See how it does. So we're going to take our black and go back in here into these dark areas and create some shadows in here. Touch my paper towel, and I'm going to be up on the toe because I'm going to kind of scrub this in, but I got to go around these little leaves that I put in here. I don't want to cover up my leaves and have to go back and paint them all in. So just kind of stay up on the tip of the brush. This is where you can kind of shape your leaves a little bit if you lost some of the shape on them. Okay, that's a dark area back in there. I'm going to come along between these two and put a little bit of this in here. Grab some water here. I'm going to have some shadow on this side of the jar. And a little bit coming underneath it here. You have to have the water on the edge of your brush in order to kind of smooth that out. It's going to be very thin of a shadow right here. And a little bit right there. We're going to have a little bit of a shadow here. Not a lot, but a little bit. Have a little bit behind this strawberry. Right here. bit here where these two strawberries kind of meet. We'll have some behind the strawberry. And it's going to be up here. It's going to be away from the strawberry here, but as we come down, we're going to have it touch the strawberry. A little bit back here. Just a smooch. Alright, this strawberry here in front. We're going to have our shadow over here. Mostly. A little bit right here. I'm going to take my finger and smooth that out because I want to keep that shadow like right there. We can have a little bit of it coming around the strawberry a little bit. Alrighty, let's do our basket here. Okay, we're going to have a lot of shadow back here. So I'm just going to create a little bit of a V. This is the water edge, that's the paint edge, so I'm kind of pushing that paint into that basket. I'll wipe my brush off. I'm going to grab some clean water here. You always want to float with clean water because if you use dark color, what does it do? It creates cast a shadow on your shadow, and then it doesn't quite look right. Alright, I'm going to tap that just a little bit. Very lightly blend. And we want some of this here. A little bit right through there. Clean your mop brush after every use or you will just transfer paint all over your project. Okay, while we have this black, I'm going to darken the shading right here. Need a little bit more paint. Just a tiny bit of paint. Work it in with that water. I want this to take over. Wipe some off. Grab a little bit of water. And mop brush. That's a little bit of a hard line on there. Take the water edge and dampen that. Okay, a little bit more of a shadow there. Actually, we could bring this over a little bit. And a little bit more of that here, and a little bit on our handle. A little bit of a shadow there coming from the jar. And let's see. I want to make sure that's dry. I want that to be just a little bit darker. A little bit darker right there. I think I also want it to be a little bit darker right here. darker back here. So your first shading, if you didn't get it dark enough, just go back and reapply a little bit more. Get some of that shadow in there. The first one is probably definitely going to fade back in there a little bit. Okay, we can also create a shadow on the wall back here if that's something you want to attempt. So you have to determine your light source is coming this way. Obviously it's coming across this way. So your shadow of your basket handle would be out here, and then a little bit of shadow out here from the basket and strawberries itself. But because I am designing this for a specific chapter group, I'm not going to do that, but that is something that you can definitely incorporate into this design to give it a little bit more depth. Alright, I'm going to take a little bit of the cranberry wine and the soft black and go underneath, very narrow right here, and then I'm going to pick up a little bit more soft black and go along here. And kind of shade underneath that. Keep it pretty tight against that jar lid. Don't let it get out of control. And then we can put a little bit of reflective light on here. I might grab a little bit of yellow in with that. Mostly white, a little bit of pale, a little bit of yellow to make it just a pale yellow. Oh, I dropped it. And we can create just a little bit of a cast shadow. Maybe not quite so wide. Just a scooch of it. Yeah, we're doing pretty good here. I think we can actually call this a done project. I mean, you can do as much tweaking and stuff as you would like to it. But like I said, this is designed for a specific group, and I want to keep it a little more easy for them to paint. So I think go. Now we can see just the painting. Sorry about that. I was having a hard time with my camera wanting to go off the screen there. Okay, I think this one turned out exceptionally well. I really love it. It's very cute. I hope it's an easy project. I tried to keep it more, you know, intermediate, where, because fruits can require a lot of details and a lot of layering, so I tried to eliminate some of the layering. It's a little bit hard with strawberries because you really need that depth of color with those strawberries. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for painting with me. Give me a thumbs up because that really helps my YouTube channel a lot. And like I said, if you are new to my channel, please subscribe. And if you're a returning subscriber, I thank you and appreciate you all so very much. All right, everybody, I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.